When I was a senior in high school and I went to a fine arts high school, I was Julius Caesar in our production of the play Julius Caesar. So, in some fashion, this kind of feels like a return to the scene of the crime.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to A Sense of Travel. I'm Michael Matheny, where I'm on a mission to document the sights, sounds, tastes, feels, and smells of cities, countries, and natural landmarks around the world. Today, I'm in the capital of it all, Rome, Italy. I am stoked to bring you guys along through all 5 senses. So let's get started.
Right in the heart of central Italy is a place where ancient history sits casually amongst 7 hilltops, where food is a pure art form, where pine trees look like umbrellas, and where the salty air reminds you that the ocean is never far out of reach. Rome is a city where beauty and romance seem to radiate from every marble temple, rustic cobbled alleyway, cascading fountain, and ancient brick aqueduct. For all its rustic charm and romantic ambience, you'd think Rome was a quintessential cute little Italian town. Remarkably, Rome is home to 2.9 million people just within its city limits, and over 4.3 million in its metro area. Italy's capital is bursting at the seams with amazing history, stunning vistas, breathtaking art, exquisite food, and warm, kind people. During my travel to Rome, I kept asking myself the same question. How can I capture this experience in a way that brings people into the page or the screen alongside me? To do just that, I decided to document all 5 senses of my journey to bring you imaginatively into the city. What does Rome's air feel like? What kinds of scents fill your nostrils as you wander the cobbled alleyways? What sounds permeate the atmosphere as you look out over the rolling green Roman hillsides? Now, today, I'm excited to share the Rome experience with you in a way that places you imaginatively into this rustic, fascinating, ancient Italian capital in a way that makes you feel as if you've been there too. So, let's dive in together. There are 4 key areas we're going to dive into today: Central Rome, the Colosseum and Roman Forum, the Vatican City, and the beachside town of Lido di Ostia. Each of these areas brings its own unique vibe, flair, and, of course, history to the table, and no one of them is any less fascinating than the other. It seems only fitting, however, that we start in the heartbeat of the city, Rome's ancient city center. Central Rome, in my opinion, is the textbook definition of rustic Italian. A little grungy and a little dirty, the city center is decked out in plaster facades of golden yellows, beige, tans, and soft reds, mixed in with ancient brick and stone and draped in brown, beige, and red terracotta roofs.
Last time I was in Italy, it was winter. Now it's summer, and it's hot. A lot hotter than I thought it would be.
Huge torrential downpours of rain and powerful thunderstorms seem to be commonplace. The summer air even smells humid, green, mossy, and earthy. Old, dark cobbles layer the narrow streets, slanted into rolling hills, and lined in aged, low-rise buildings with their crooked wooden shutters and rustic facades. Occasional horses and carriages trot through the streets, both the narrow and the cobbled, and the wide and asphalt. Joining the carriages are thousands of tourists and locals alike, oftentimes shoulder to shoulder in the pedestrian promenades. Now, I do use the word pedestrian slightly loosely, as the odd car or work van occasionally disrupts the atmosphere, squeezing through the winding alleys. As you imagine the humid, green, rustic, and aged cityscape, you should also imagine ancient stone ruins, marble basilicas, and old brick viaducts seamlessly blending in with the cityscape, as if it's no big deal. The sheer age of the weathered buildings, fountains, monuments, and streets is fascinating. In fact, in the city center, modern high-rises and skyscrapers don't seem to exist at all. Rome is layered in green, and there's no getting around that. The misty mountains in the backdrop carry a hue of deep green, and the rooftops and windows are adorned with planters, grass, and even trees.
So something that I didn't realize was like an icon of Rome are the pine trees. So if you look up at them, they look like little umbrella canopies on the pine trees, and I've been wondering what these things were. And it turns out they're actually nicknamed umbrella pines, and they're a pretty big icon in the city. They're local to the Mediterranean part of the world, and yeah, they're just like fluffy little pine trees that only have leaves on the top. I've never seen that before, and yeah, it's kind of cool.
Mixed in with the fluffy pines are trees you'd expect to find in tropical regions rather than the Mediterranean. Palm trees, for example. A masterpiece that was totally made famous by the Lizzie McGuire movie sits right in the heart of central Rome, the Trevi Fountain. The fountain is a classical Renaissance masterpiece and so much larger than it seems in pictures. Marble statues create a scenescape into the towering marble wall, graced by crystal clear cascading fountain water inset into its base. The cascading sound of the fountain in the afternoon is primarily drowned out by the thundering sounds of tourists. It's super hot and densely packed, but the fountain truly is remarkable. By night, the fountain and its marble walls glow in golden yellow light against the deep blue sky.
So there is a tradition that you have to follow here at the Trevi Fountain. You take a coin with your back facing the fountain, and you throw it over your shoulder with your right hand. The idea here is you get some good luck, so why pass that up? So you ready?
The Pantheon is one of the oldest surviving structures still in use in all of Europe. Built in the 2nd century AD, it was once a Roman temple. The wide, gaping rotunda is graced on the outside by towering Corinthian columns, weathered away in chunks by the millennia. Ancient wood roof beams are visible beneath the high-ceilinged portico, almost black now from age. Inside the Pantheon, you can feel the weight of the ancient Roman world. The dome itself, with its open-air skylight at its center, isn't incredibly impressive in design, but it is impressive in both its size and age. While gazing at the colossal dome, it's easy to become awestruck by the fact that this dome inspired the designs of so many famous and important buildings throughout the millennia. As you imagine yourself inside the Pantheon, imagine the soft, echoing sounds of tourists bouncing around the ancient marble walls. The air is warm and a bit stuffy. As you continue wandering the streets imaginatively, scents of salty, citrusy air mixed with the sense of body odor, magnolia, pine, and cigarette smoke fill your nostrils. To complete the picture, add layers of sirens to the existing sounds of the bustling crowds trotting along the weathered cobblestones. Wandering the streets is always full of surprises in Rome. One random turn around the corner could have you face to face with magnificent landmarks. For example, the Spanish Steps. Majestic, made of old weathered marble and at the head of a long cobbled square, the wide steps with curved wings lead to a white stone Spanish cathedral with twin bell towers, guarded in a stone obelisk. The climb is steep, but the atmosphere is peaceful, with the trickling sounds of the fountain at the base, a cool breeze at the top, and hundreds of people crowding the cobbled square below in an almost block party-like atmosphere.
When I was a senior in high school and I went to a fine arts high school, I was Julius Caesar in our production of the play Julius Caesar. So, in some fashion, this kind of feels like a return to the scene of the crime. It's pretty cool.
Curio de Pompei, which sits in ruins that span an entire block right in the heart of the city, is where Caesar's actual assassination happened. Caesar's stabbing occurred at a spot within the sunken site that's now home to a towering pine tree, but the ancient brick and marble remains of the rest of the site are pretty cool, and a little bit surreal. The final place I'll touch on to capture the sensations of central Rome is the absolutely gargantuan Altar of the Fatherland. This is a prime example of a place that makes you realize that the buildings of ancient Rome are so much bigger than you would think. A colossal temple of white marble, the Altar of the Fatherland overlooks the ancient city from all angles, and it's a true masterpiece. Ancient, aged domes dot the sprawling horizon of Rome's city center, and towering green hills and mountains dominate the backdrop. Seas of terracotta in varying shades blanket Rome, where, even from above, everything seems so ancient and weathered. Old brick bell towers, similar to the one at Furman University in my hometown, join the old domes. It's from the terrace of this gargantuan structure that you get the first glimpse of our next stop, quite possibly one of the most visited landmarks on the planet.
The Roman Colosseum is so integrated into the lore of fiction, fantasy, and just general history in the Western world. To get to experience it in person is going to be unreal. And that's what we're doing next.
Like the pyramids of Giza, the Eiffel Tower, the Taj Mahal, and countless other global icons, the Colosseum feels so synonymous with both ancient history and fantasy lore that to experience it in real life feels like transporting into a screen or a photograph itself.
Walking in now, and oh my goodness, this is surreal.
Crumbling slightly, the massive elliptical amphitheater, the largest ever built by the way, made of ancient bricks and stone, sits in notable ruin, but is also surprisingly intact. A huge amount of the colossal walls are still standing, nearly at their peak height. Arches of clay and gray stone rise above the arena floor, where all of the thin clay brick underground tunnels that formerly played host to prisoners, gladiators, and captive animals are now exposed. Echoing with the sounds of tourists, the dusty rotunda of the arena sits basking in the hot summer sun. Scents of hot rusted metal, dust, and the sun-baked stone of the Colosseum ruins permeate the warm air. The air carries an intriguing but almost somber weight. The Roman Colosseum was no mere sports arena or theatrical space, although it has served those purposes as well. Throughout Rome's ancient history, the amphitheater has also served as a significant place of execution and animal hunting, although, fortunately, most of these practices died out by the medieval era.
So as you walk around the rotunda on the upper level of the Colosseum, there are exhibits and museums and things like that. And it's interesting because I just learned that people actually lived inside the Colosseum over the course of its history. Like this was actually people's home during a long period of time, which is really cool.
The Colosseum towers above another fascinating slice of ancient history, the ancient Roman Forum. The Roman Forum served as the heart of the ancient Roman government. Here, you'll see a series of towering ruins on a lush, green, rolling landscape, amongst which are the ruins of ancient Roman baths, temples, columns, and arches. The towering hilltop of the Forum, Palatine Hill, is inset by the ruins of the temple and the House of the Vestals, atop which is an ancient Roman fortress overlooking the city. Aged, almost beige slabs of ancient brick are built into the towering hillside. Up a dusty path to the peak of the hill sits a series of ancient gardens filled with hedge mazes, the scents of aromatic flowers and orange trees, and views of the more typical foliage found in Rome like pine trees and palms. Despite a slight breeze, the dusty Forum air is still very warm. In contrast to the Colosseum itself, the soundscape is much softer in the Forum and the crowds are less packed in. Light chatter, footsteps on gravel, and seagulls that sound as if they're cackling fill the air. The next stop, as I work to bring the full five senses of Rome to you experientially, is actually an entire country away. And yet, it's still a journey that can be made on foot. Your guess is correct. We're heading to the Vatican. The Vatican City isn't technically part of Rome. In fact, it's not even technically part of Italy. The Vatican is its own sovereign country and one of the few city-states left in the world. There are less than 1,000 permanent residents and citizens of the Vatican, making it the smallest country in the world. Landlocked by Italy and, further, by Rome, the city is enclosed by a towering stone wall. Inside the stone fortress wall sits a dark, cobbled central street lined by beige, cream, and tan buildings with dark terracotta roofs, graced by obelisk lampposts, and leading to a gaping wide rotunda of ancient columns, the beginning of the independent city-state of the Vatican. At the head of the city sits the monumental dome of the Basilica of St. Peter.
St. Peter's Basilica is absolutely gigantic. This is so big. The archways, which cover through the narrow nave, are completely laced in gold. Everything is accented in gold, and it almost feels completely covered. Each of the vestibules are domed, and the gold lacing rises above to the dome, which is topped in Renaissance mural of some kind it varies. Marble statues are inset into the big Roman columns that rise above the space. The floor itself is marble, and it's layered in shades of browns and golds. It smells of marble and various people's perfumes. The air in here is certainly warm and stuffy. It's a summer's day in Italy. And all you can really hear is the light chatter of all of the tourists inside of the basilica and shoes squeaking on the marble. And it's a really, really humbling, kind of a surreal experience just to walk through this basilica that means so much to so many people, not just today, but throughout the centuries.
Adjacent to the basilica is a site that draws over 5 million visitors every single year. The Sistine Chapel and its adjoining museum is impossible to take in all at once. Grand corridors and halls are drenched from top to bottom in frescoes of absolutely stunning Renaissance artwork. When I say top to bottom, I mean that literally. No surface is left untouched. Even the marble in the facades is ornately detailed. The colors in the blanket of priceless murals are rich and deep, with a lot of golden lacing. Given all the people, as you imagine yourself gazing upon the corridors of art, you'll have to imagine hot, stuffy air and a lot of selfie sticks. In the Sistine Chapel itself, you can't take videos or photos, but I have to say, the frescoes outside the chapel are honestly just as, if not more, impressive and visually stimulating.
So if you're like me, you definitely didn't realize you could just go to the beach within an hour's train ride from Rome, but you can. And that's where I am now, at Lido Ostia, which is a pretty cool little beach town. I mean, it kind of reminds me of what you might see in like Southern California or Florida, like the Mediterranean style houses, the palm trees. It's super hot, which I don't love, but it is definitely a cool little atmosphere and a nice little escape if you want to get away from the center city and just have a nice beach day. It's weird, it feels like a very classic American beach, except everyone's speaking Italian, but it's cool. You've got like Italian shaved ice and little trucks going around, which is fun. Surfers, bells dinging for some reason, different cabanas, and then of course you've got a boardwalk off in the distance. And the air smells very salty. It smells like your classic beach. So this is really cool, and it's really cool that it's so close to Rome.
A guy with a cart of Italian ice makes his way down the beach, which meets the crashing waves of the aqua blue water with occasional large rock sides. It's in a place like this where you can really take it slow, whether that's swimming in the sea, searching for seashells, or just kicking back with a gelato. I mentioned that the local train takes you to the beach, but the metro lines are the best way to get around the city proper. Rome is super walkable, but its metro system does take some of the sweat out of the equation. Italian food is world-renowned. In fact, it regularly tops the lists of best cuisines on the planet. As the capital of Italy, Rome is the epicenter for much of the food that gives the country its claim to fame. The tastes that define the Rome experience, frankly, can't be consumed in 1 week. Not that I didn't try. Of the delicious Italian specialties that I did indulge in, however, here are the ones that I felt really capture the taste of the city. Okay, this seems like a cop-out to list as the first of Rome's defining tastes, but the thing is, pizza in Italy is like barbecue in the southeastern United States. They go together.
Look, sit-down restaurants are cool and all, but the best way to do pizza in Italy is by the slice at these little bodega-like shops. It already smells so damn good.
Pizza is usually served by the slice, but often in squares, a bit different than the slice you may be familiar with if you're American or if you visited New York City. The second taste I'll mention may also seem a bit stereotypical, but the stereotype is well-founded. Gelaterias are literally everywhere in Rome. My absolute favorite was a peanut, not peanut butter, but just peanut, flavored cup at Cafe Mocha in Lido, Ostia.
I want to take a moment. I showed you a lot of gelato, but this is a peanut gelato. Just peanut cream. It doesn't even taste like peanut butter. It tastes like peanuts, straight up. This is the best gelato I think I've ever had. That's all I had to say.
There are so many variations of pasta to be found in Rome's rustic streets. In penne al salmon, thick-cut penne noodles came absolutely drenched in an orange sauce of sour cream, salmon cream, tomato, butter, pepper, parsley, and wine. This dish was rich and delicious and surprisingly heavy given the size of the bowl. It was the perfect hearty meal at the end of a rainy summer's evening. Breakfast in Italy isn't usually the ordeal it can be in places like the United States, but what they do eat is decadent. Cornetti are sweet, almost lemony cream-filled thick croissants dusted in powdered sugar and, as the standard Italian breakfast pastry, pair quite often with a quick espresso. As such, I had one every morning. Cacio e pepe is a local dish that comprises primarily of thick-cut noodle tubes doused with a thick, peppered, creamy cheese sauce. The creamy sauce has a remarkably rich taste, and the pepper is just subtle enough to keep the thick noodles from losing their taste. At a restaurant called UBK in Lido di Ostia, I tried a delicious seafood pasta dish with a little spicy kick. Maltagliato noodles look like large pasta wedges, which is always a good sign. The wedged noodles were then layered in a smooth, watery tomato sauce, small grape tomatoes, and a fresh, tender squid. This is both filling and light, and the perfect meal to enjoy on a break from the sun on a fun Italian beach day. At a rather lively butcher shop right in the heart of central Rome sits a sandwich that's quite famous to the city, the porchetta sandwich. On panini bread and filled with delicious and fresh thin-sliced pork, this sandwich is smoky and flavorful, and of course, in typical Italian fashion, comes accompanied by a delicious red wine. I think it's safe to say that lasagna is pretty ubiquitous around the world as a staple in Italian cuisine, and in Rome, that reputation is confirmed. Almost every restaurant menu has lasagna, each with its own little twist. My favorite rendition was found at a cafe called Cafe Valentina near the Colosseum and Forum. This light plate was soft, smooth, and very tomato-heavy, and ingrained with a light meat sauce and white sauce cheese. I first tried gnocchi in Florence, Italy, and thought it was perfect. I didn't realize that gnocchi can get even more delicious, but this bowl of soft little gnocchi balls, which are potato-based pasta, sauced in a soft, creamy, and light tomato and cheese sauce, proved me quite wrong. A perfect blend of light and heavy, this bowl of gnocchi was happily eaten underneath a canopy just outside a small restaurant in the pouring rain. To round out the tastes that really capture the Roman experience, linguine aglio olio peperoncino e pecorino is a rich pasta dish that bursts with a wide spread of flavors. The tastes and textures consist of long, flat pasta with garlic oil, red pepper, and pecorino cheese. I could say so much more about Rome, but for now, and given that this is probably my longest vlog yet, I'll spare you the time spent straining your eyes and listening to me talk. Thanks for coming along with me as I brought the 5 senses of the Rome experience to you. My hope today is that you were able to place yourself imaginatively into the rustic, ancient, warm cobbled streets in a way that makes you feel the romance and serenity of Rome alongside me. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.